reveal the truth.
I'm Jim Price, the Jim Price Show Daily Update. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do appreciate you. Well, I'm repeating the first sentence and the last sentence. That's good stuff. Anyway, I'm going to make up the date like the government always does because they're here to help. Remember that, guys. Never deny their authority or their wisdom because they're here to help. I promise you that. We're going to call it March 18th. It's Wednesday, 2026. Yeah, that's right, folks. Remember, the government is always here. It's all about you and their love and care for you. They would never do anything to harm you. Anyway, no, wait, no, that's a lie. All right, I got to get settled in my seat for some reason here today. Now, today is a new day. There are things going on in the congressional hearings. We had gentlemen that they're putting up for DHS up there. And, of course, Rand Paul had to be the first out of the gate, and he wanted to do Rand Paul like Rand Paul does. And Rand Paul has gotten to the point where I do appreciate Rand Paul. I think he's a great guy. I think what he says, his ideologies, they're all there, except for sometimes you can be a friend, Rand. You don't have to be like that all the time, bro. Just chill it out a little bit. And I know you're desperate like I am to try to work on this country and do things. I get it, buddy, but during a confirmation hearing, don't worry about whether somebody's going to beat somebody's ass and then putting yourself in the middle of the situation by talking about it. Anyway, Rand, do better. Hey, I try to do better every day. This is a work in progress always. Then there's some goings on with I thought the SAVE Act had passed, but I guess it didn't pass. But now we're debating it. But then it passed, but it didn't. Then wait, it passed. Wait, it didn't pass. So yeah, good job, government. My expectations, your ability to perform, like way down. It's like not even. I don't even think I'm standing on top of it with this floor here. I think it's further down than that. Sad part of it is this is what we're up against now. I am still okay. Listen, guys, we can all be what side ever you want to be on with Iran. Okay, there is something that Tucker said that was very, very accurate. He says we've never, ever announced that we're going to take a religious leader out of a position of power to allow people to then vote for the power or to vote people into power that way, right? So we've never said that out loud. We never said those words, but that's what we're doing in Iran. Yes, Iran is a pain in the ass. Yes, they do a lot of crazy things. Yes, they finance terrorism. Yes, they do all those things. I got it. Hey, I'm not on their side. See how that works? I cannot be on their side. But also talk about we needed to take out that religious zealot who was doing the things that they have done to Iran, which is Persia, which used to be a beautiful place to visit and vacation. But I digress. There are some goings on with the new guy or the old guy that just left. This is kind of a back and forth a little bit on what happened. Just 2 seconds here. Let me get to this. Where did I roll that? God, I just rolled that out of the way, didn't I? All right, let's go all the way to the top here. I think I have it here. Oh, Joe Kent. Now, Joe Kent is the guy who turned in his letter of resignation, and it's all been out on the internet and all those things. Tucker Carlson is going to be interviewing him in about 50 minutes from now. There will be a live interview with Tucker Carlson on Tucker Carlson Network. He has also gone ahead and said that he will interview with Mark Levin. Again, you know, I always thought Mark Levin is a constitutionalist. Now he's just Jewish. He doesn't have the ability to now talk about America and its ability to have a constitution. He's that. And so it's like, dude, don't do that. And then the other thing is I can't handle his voice. And hey, I'm not everybody's cup of tea either. Not pointing fingers, but you know, this is just too. I used to turn him off. I just couldn't handle him on the radio. I don't know if it was because it was on AM or FM or what it was, but maybe his voice was just a little too high for me on that stuff. So anyway, that's the kind of goings-on of the world around us. Their oil is almost $100 a barrel, but it looks like just about a week or two from now, it will be closer to $50 a barrel. I know that feels a little hard to believe, seeing how oil or gasoline at the pump went up 30 cents over the weekend, this last weekend, over when we were all getting drunk on green beer or doing bad things to our livers. They raised gasoline by 30 cents. Now, hopefully that will now turn around. But again, there's a lot of stuff that we've done, and I don't agree with a lot of this. But let me do this. How do you make cake? How do you make the cookies? How do you make the bread? You got to smash a few eggs, right? You got to crack that little shell. And it doesn't always crack in that nice little circle. It kind of crumbles and goes in weird ways, and sometimes pieces of it fall in there. And if that's not the yin and yang of life, if that is not the push-pull, the white-black, that I don't know what to tell you guys. This is what we do, okay? This is what life is. Now, we did not like the fact that their Ayatollah, who was a Christian, or not Christian, but a Muslim leader, was running the country. We didn't like that. The people didn't like it. People are praising for this fact, but here's the problem. To make all this happen, you're going to have to crack a few eggs, and they're not going to go the way you want them to go. It's not going the way I want it to go. So don't get mad at me. I mean, hey, I'm not happy too, because I don't think bombs and bullets do the job, right? I think that that's the last resort, and the sad part of it is when you are holding on to power that doesn't belong to you, you're not going to leave willingly, right, Zelensky? Hey, Vladimir Zelensky, remember that election a couple of years ago you were supposed to have, but you're like, I'm a war-torn president, and oh, it's so hard to be me. Oh, I'm flying all over Europe every other month. If you're such a war-torn president, you're barely making it, then why is it you continually fly all over the earth? You've gone to Australia, America, Europe, everywhere, except for Russia, which is really your neighbor, which is really your motherland, which is they believe Ukraine is their motherland, which is actually supposed to default back to Russia because the USSR treaty that broke up Russia, when you are no longer sovereign, able to take care of yourself, i.e. Zelensky going around with a handout, I can't take care of myself, you are to default back to the authority of Mother Russia. Your treaty, not mine. Me no sign, you sign. Go take care of your shit. Don't be talking to me about I need to defend myself. You haven't been doing a good job. By the way, the land that Russia has actually taken in on Ukraine, same land they've had for 3 years. That line hasn't changed. So let's all get honest with each other what we're really doing. All right, we're covering up all of our messes in the Ukraine with all the different bioweapons and child trafficking and human modifying laboratories we've had there for decades. And that's where we were hiding our dirt. That's why we've been in there, too, because our dirt's over there. Anyway, all right, guys, that is the news I got for today. I do have a special guest with me today. Scott, look good to see you, man. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Appreciate you, buddy.
Well, it's great to see you again.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what? I first met you 4 years and 1 month ago. Who would
What?
have ever thought? Yeah, it was that long ago. It was at a
Man.
Reawaken America tour in Akron, Ohio,
Right,
in
right.
February of 2022.
I mean, that
So
was the
that's
middle of
amazing,
it, too. 2022, things were really hot. Things were happening,
right?
right? And now I met you at the very first few steps of your journey, right? Of things that
That's
had
right.
happened to you. So you were pretty fresh. You were kind of sunburned. You still had the scabs. You're trying to figure it out. You're like, oh, and I appreciated your honesty and your authenticity. And if anything I've learned about myself in the last 4 years since I've met you is that authenticity, which gets us closer to our creator. That's the honesty with ourselves and the world around us. And we find that. But you've always been that genuine guy you always had a smile in the middle of the tears. You're a guy who always had that positivity to you. But let's go back a little bit, Scott. No, I don't think anybody references you on this show recently. So let's go with this. Scott, I met you at the Reawaken Tour, and why don't you give us a little bit of a preview or what would have been prior to you meeting me there? What had happened in your life? Now, guys, let's go back. 2021, right? We're really hot and heavy. We're doing the lockdowns. We're doing the slow the spread crap. Oh, we got freezers next to hospitals. Remember all the hysteria? Oh, remdesivir. We all became remdesivir experts. We all became intubation experts. We all became viral experts. We all became all these other experts, right? We were all like, hey, you guys suck out there. But Scott got caught in the middle of some things here. And I want you to go ahead, Scott, and just pick up from there if you don't mind. Or you
Yeah,
could,
so
go ahead.
how we got into this is, I was just an obedient slave paying my taxes, and I didn't know anything. And this
Yep.
whole thing that now that I completely understand it, I don't completely understand everything, but I understand what this COVID scam was, and it was a psychological operation instigated by our own government.
Yes.
And that might shock people, it might offend people, but I don't care. I don't care about offending people. I care about the truth. And we were caught up into it because, as you said in your open, we were programmed in the public fool system, and in that system, you're programmed to trust the government.
Yeah.
So, so when COVID came out, we just trust the government, and not all the way. We had never vaccinated Grace as an
Right.
example, and I'll explain who Grace was here in a moment. But
Yeah.
uh, so we had never vaccinated Grace, and instead of rolling over with the CDC protocol, we followed the less evil frontline COVID critical care doctors protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, Grace, who was 19, she had Down syndrome. The protocol said to take her to the hospital if her oxygen saturation dropped below 94%. And so we dutifully did that, even though Grace just had a cold. If we would have never taken her to the hospital, she'd be alive today.
Absolutely.
7 days later, she was dead.
Mm.
They gave her a combination of Precedex, lorazepam, and morphine, which should never be combined unless you
Diazepam.
are desiring to end somebody's life in hospice care.
Right.
And when it came time to revive Grace, the medical staff refused to even come in the room because the doctor put an illegal do not resuscitate order on her chart.
Wow.
By God's providence, we had the first and likely only wrongful death jury trial in the country with COVID listed on the death certificate as cause of death. And we
Wow.
lost that jury trial 11-1 last June in favor of the medical industrial complex. And, when you look at something like that, you think, how is it possible? Especially those of you who watched the trial. We had over 1 million people watch the trial at various times. It was
Right.
wonderful for people to see what was behind the curtain. So
Yeah.
people were shocked. And, of course, I was um, shocked also when the verdict came down, but I'm not surprised because I've spent most of my time studying. A good chunk has been on the medical industrial complex, but then how did we even get here? And I see the programming that they've done with all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the public fool system.
I like that.
I
I
went
like the public fool system. I like that so much. I heard you say that. I'm like, he meant that. That was cool. I like that. I'm so stealing that from you. I'm never giving you credit for that. I'm like, ah. Anyway, sorry. I got 8 grandkids. I get fired up about that. But anyway,
Yeah, well,
good job.
it's real stuff. It's
Yeah.
already in 68. I went to kindergarten in 68.
Yeah.
And they were telling us back then in the Weekly Reader that if your parents have more than 2 children, that's irresponsible because of the limited resources on the planet nonsense. And they're still selling that lie today.
That goes back
And
to MK Ultra. So the one thing I always remind everybody in the early 60s, especially 66 to 67, color televisions became the normal, and people were really pushing for color televisions. But that's when they could take light, sound, and color. See, the light was there, right? They could get the light to manipulate you, but they needed the color to get the emotion right. And then they had the sounds, the subliminal sounds in the background, but that was just in television. But I always talk about this when you say that, oh, you heard it, you saw it in your weekly reader in 65. Well, I can tell you, watching all of Gunsmoke, I probably watched every episode 1,000 times especially because of COVID. I wanted to watch something that wasn't. So I watched so much of Gunsmoke in 63 to 65. Men started hitting women. Men started being drunks. Men started leaving the women. Men started, doing this carousing and manipulating and, smacking women in public. It was all this really weird stuff. And all the way up through 63, we never saw anything like that. There was always a man stepping in. Oh, we're going to do this, boys. This is how we, it was always that bravado. And then we've been shown through feminists, right? We've weakened the family home, and now I saw that happening there. But think about it. People are like regulating, oh, yeah, fathers are never home. Fathers are always a drunk. That's programming. That's those little seeds. Go ahead.
Well, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and people don't realize that that's how we have gotten here.
Yeah.
We have all tacitly bought into that programming, mainly because our sinful nature is lazy. But and so when I say let's just define the word they,
Right.
because I want to make sure people understand what I'm talking about. This is the government minions that are in charge of implementing this satanic agenda. So they have been doing that programming that Jim just mentioned by design.
Yeah.
You know, and the breakdown of the family, of course, it's insane today. I mean, the American male has been denutted via television.
Wussification.
And
Wussification. I call it wussification.
right on. It's absolutely right on.
It
And
just makes
of
you
course,
weak. You're not anything, but you're just weak. You're listless. You don't care. You don't fight. That's also what the blue light does to us too, right? Go ahead.
well, that's right. And yeah, I'm in the medical murder lane, but I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
broadened my horizon into these other things to figure out how in the heck did this happen?
Yeah.
How did we buy into making doctors idols? Well, one of the programming things that they have told us is that the Hippocratic Oath says, first, do no harm. Well, it does not say that. I did a two-part podcast on it. I have my own podcast now, Jim, called
Yeah.
Deprogramming with Grace's Dad,
Right.
because that's what, since Grace's death, I have woken up to how programmed I have been.
Yeah.
So, the process of deprogramming yourself is intense, and it's got to be on purpose. It's not going to happen by accident,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
they've been doing this for so long. How do you undo it?
Yeah.
How do you unlearn something that is taught to you? I mean, the first, as Mark Twain said, it's easier to fool a person than to convince them they've been fooled. And
Absolutely.
that's a very important step in the process of deprogramming is you have to look in the mirror and say, I've been duped,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
let it happen.
let me do the programming test for you. Tomorrow or tonight, whenever you brush your teeth, use your opposite hand, and then tell me how programmed you are. See, I mean, it's like writing with your right hand all the time, right? Why can't
Right.
you write with your left hand? It's not impossible. I write with both hands, right? But every now and again, I'll switch my toothbrush to the other one, and I feel like I'm like trying to poke my own eye out or something. Like, what is that? Like, I know how to do this. My wrist is all weird, and I'm like, I gotta do it. I'm like, why is this a problem? But that's the programming, right? We program our brains like the easy because our brains are meant to be efficient. And because they want to be efficient, they want to find the path of least resistance. So then they give in and give up, and then they just do what the butthole in front of them is doing, right? Just follow the dummy in front of you. Just get in line. We're just doing the same. What are we doing today? The same thing we did yesterday. We can't have that conversation, right? Of why we are so programmed, but yet I do, and I will tell you, Scott, let me give you a real quick observation of you. I do like this Scott. I do like this Scott. Scott, when I first met, he was a little softer, and he had a little softer in his voice, but he has very good tonation. He's got good speech cadence, and I'm gonna tell you, Scott, I can tell you've been in the fight because when I've heard the fight voice in you. I heard that little extra, and welcome to the club. I went through it myself, and I thought, and then there's difference to people who've been through the machine who have seen the machine. I've been through it, and you've been through it.
Well, that's thank you for that. I mean, I have been through it and I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
I've been beat up. I lost my son first to suicide in 2018, my daughter to the medical industrial complex. We lost the lawsuit. All of those things have made me much stronger, mainly because God built me for this time and I started digging. With that gift that he gave me of researching, I started digging, and I've decided to be blunt, even more blunt, and just give everybody a warning right now. I'm an equal opportunity offender, and here's a news flash. Our who we're going to call our president of the corporation still is touting Operation Warp Speed Save the Planet. So if you are a globalist psychopath, that's what you say,
Right.
because Operation Warp Speed was an absolute success for the globalist psychopath because their goal is depopulation. So that's why he's saying it. That's why he ran on it. That's why he keeps saying it. And we have to stop thinking the new king is going to save
Absolutely.
us. That is not going to happen.
Right. Well, it's
So
all
anyway,
about that. It's all about that personal responsibility, right? We've got to get ourselves right, make sure our relationship with our creator is right, make sure that we've done our stuff, and then we can go out here and start working with others. And that's where, so like with the battle you've been through, Scott, and I appreciate everything, your emotion. By the way, Courtney Allen says thank you to you because you had her stepdaughter on your show, and she was Courtney Allen said that. So I hope you. Yeah. But anyway, so she said
Yeah,
hi.
I was on Courtney's show and she asked if she could bring her stepdaughter in. She wanted to she thought I was some type of a star, so she wanted to meet me, which was nice. But
Oh,
she also knew that Grace was my special daughter, and so she wanted to meet me because of Grace. So it
absolutely.
was really neat thing.
Absolutely. Now, so Scott, and like, again, like me and you've seen inside, we've been swallowed, right?
Yeah.
We went all the way in. We got pooped out the other side. The emotions, the tears, the struggles are all real. That is the part where, it's hard. When we talk about grace, there's a true emotion tied to that name. There's experience, there's memories, and in the same way, you have to process your new future. And so I do applaud you for what you did. And this is stuff that was taken away from people. And now let me ask you a couple questions. You went through the whole trial thing, and I applaud you for doing that, man. You are, I mean, I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you. If you guys haven't given him $10 or whatever, send some money over to Scott. I don't even know how you do it, but find a pigeon, throw it towards him. They'll figure it out. But Scott, you've been a hell of a trooper and all that. But what was when you were going through the trial stuff? And I know you got on stage and you've done a lot with that stuff, and you've done a lot of little small group and big group and interviews. But when you lost that, in that, I know you saw victory. Now, I know you better than this, but I know you saw victory in the trial. But what was it what was the reason you lost? What do you feel like, other than it's the corporate shills doing most of the work, but what was it for you that you saw that lost, or a law that should be changed so you wouldn't lose? What was that for you?
Well, there's three reasons that we lost. So just why we should have won, we'll just start with that. I mean, we had a better team, a better case, better experts, and we were better prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I have never worked so hard on anything in my life. I've started 4 different businesses from scratch, and that trial was the hardest thing I've ever worked on. I worked about 25% of my hours from April 11th, the day of the filing, until the end of the trial, 25% of my waking hours on the trial. The
Wow.
last 4 months before the trial, I worked 7 days a week with the legal team. I knew the medical records. I knew a lot of the medical records by page number, by heart. I cross-referenced all the medical records with the deposition testimony. I mean, it was intense. I never worked so hard on something.
Right.
So, that piece of it is why we should have won. So why did we lose? I said there's 3 reasons.
Right.
The primary reason is you're up against the beast. And the beast has, if the average age of the jury, which I think was probably mid 30s, they have probably all been triple jabbed. One of the jury members had a mask on the entire trial.
Jiminy
So
Christmas.
they're conditioned to trust the medical system.
Right.
This is not a jury of your peers. If it was a jury of Jim Price's, we would have won. So it was not a jury of your peers. I mean, so I think that's the primary reason is the programming. The second reason is that when you're up against the beast, they have more money than you. The trial cost us $1.1 million, but the beast had an unlimited pocketbook. We had one medical expert. They brought in 5. All 5 of their experts contradicted our medical expert 180 degrees. So it's 5 against 1. The jury hearing the same rote ideas that were completely false. I mean, the jury got it wrong because the experts, and I'm going to put experts in quotes, the experts had it wrong. So they testified that in a hospital setting, there's a concept called implied consent. A doctor can unilaterally put a DNR on somebody without their permission, without the power of attorney's permission. They kept saying this same thing over and over and over. So, we had 5 against 1. So money was the second reason. And then there was a technical reason we lost. And I filed a motion for a new trial because of that technical reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that is both sides, whenever there's a big trial, this trial was scheduled for 3 weeks. The judge always has a pretrial hearing. And at the pretrial hearing in May, each side presents, there's a lot of things that happen. Ultimately, that's where it was decided the trial would be live streamed and things like that. But one of the key technical things that happen is both sides present the judge with motions in limine. These
Right.
are the things that we don't want in the trial. So, for example, the defense presented that they do not want to have the word murder used at the trial. The judge granted that, and it was a reasonable request because it was not a murder trial. It was a wrongful death trial.
Right.
So then it was our turn to go through the motions in limine. And keep in mind, the judge had all these ahead of time. He read
Right.
them
Oh
all
yeah,
ahead of
yeah,
time.
yeah. You have to put them in, and the clerk has to. There's a whole
Correct.
filing. There's a whole thing. Like it's not like you showed up and you're like, oh, what's all this paperwork? It's all very
Right.
early filed. Yeah, yeah.
All filed. And so when it came time then for him to rule on ours, he would not even hear a syllable. Instead, he said, all the plaintiff's motions in limine are denied. And our motions in limine were about two specific things. One is about my religious beliefs, and then about the research that I've done after Grace's death, because those were not relevant to what happened to Grace from October 6th through October 13th to 21. So then what the defense, of course, jumped on that. And at the trial, they were able to paint me as a religious conspiracy nut. And, it's not the defense's fault. So that's why I filed a motion for a new trial, and that was denied on December 19th. So I've decided to not pursue the legal route anymore.
Right.
I will just tell everybody bluntly, I knew what I was getting into. I knew the odds of winning were low. I didn't realize how much it was going to cost. That was a bit of a surprise. But we were called into it to, you know, when you're called to do something, you just do it.
Yeah.
And we were called into it. We never had a settlement position. We were going all the way to the jury. And, it's crystal clear that the legal system is in bed with the medical system, all part of the Antichrist beast system. And I couldn't have a better example than having walked through it myself.
Yeah. Well, if you think about this, and let me give you a little bit of I don't know if you've heard about this with Dr. Artis, but the snake peptides, the snake venom peptides that were in the two shots that they put together to create the COVID, which is snake venom poisoning, which is the heart attack gun. When you think about how this whole thing, when you talk about this being a satanic, or Satan is your opposer. If you're a good person, your Satan is a bad. If you're a bad person, your Satan is a good. So that it's kind of that, we have to remember that, right? But with the whole idea that the snake venom, we're using snake venom very specifically, which is all the COVID symptoms, but that's also what is also put in the vials to create snake venom into the body, but also what is COVID that can be passed around as snake venom as well. So at the point where I'm trying to draw all this together is it is evil. The evilness and the reptilian or the snake effect of all this, going back to the very beginning of what we have is in the Bible, talking about the very first of these things is the doubts that came in were through the serpent, right? And this is, again,
Right.
Why do we keep seeing this loop back, right? We all ignore that evil's all around us until evil runs you and I over. We both got beat up in our own way. Yours was obviously far more traumatic than mine. I lost money. You lost a family and a child. I don't even know. Whew, that gets to me. But this whole thing of this loop back that we keep seeing with your stuff and my stuff and all how this whole thing works is that evil really is there. And a lot of times we all want to ignore that it says principality and powers of the air, talking about it's all around us. It's the very consciousness of you, the air that you inhalate and exhalate to say that you're conscious, right? That's where consciousness comes from, our atmosphere, what we live and breathe in. I just wish that we would realize how evil really walks among us. And we forget that it really is as mean as what we've experienced. And yours was. Can you go back and give me? I mean, you got a book coming out, right? There's a book that you got coming out.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually was released last week on Tuesday, on March 10th, and it's called "Is the Government Legally Killing Us?" And it is a summation of 4,000 hours of research that I've done into the medical industrial complex since Grace's death. And I'm blown away by the fact that it actually got on Amazon. I chose to self-publish it because it's too aggressive. I didn't leave anything untouched.
Right.
And I called a spade a spade. So, I mean, I just, no publisher would have touched it.
Right.
Yet it got on Amazon, and we've been number one on Amazon for 8 days in a row. Wow. I can't hardly believe it. Yeah. Wow. So it's amazing to me.
So
because,
I'm asking. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just a dad. I don't know anything. I mean, but
it works.
Yeah, it worked, and it's a really a great product. I spent a lot of time on it, and I think people will get a lot out of it.
I don't want to jump to the head of the book or, the very last page, but the beginning says, "Is the government killing us legally?" Can you go ahead and tell me what the last page says? Is there a summation that says the word YES at the end? It's
Yeah,
just a big
here's
yes at the very last page. It's just like yes, like, oh, well, shit. I
so
could have
that
I could have got all
that
the way to
was
the
one
back.
of the yeah. I mean, I guess I could have made it a lot shorter book.
just, just
You know
all
how it's
just yes over and over and over. Maybe you need to do a sequel or the second volume and just make it all just every word is yes. And it's chapter 2, yes, and then give paragraphs exactly like it's the book, but it's the second one that says,
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
What's funny is that when I first started writing, it didn't start out as a book. I had an MD review it. I thought it was just going to be a very long Substack broken into sections.
right.
And the MD I wanted it to be technically right. So she said, Scott, this is a book. And so then the first title was The Government is Legally Killing Us.
Mm,
Yeah. And so then I have a friend who is a publisher. He reviewed it
right.
and he said, it's not in my wheelhouse, but I'll help you self-publish. So anyway, his first order of business, he said, well, Scott, you better change the title as a question. You're going to sell a lot more books.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think what you should, oh, you know what you should have done, maybe, I'm sorry, I'm being all funny with this, but I was like, the very last page, put like a QR code in there, and then when the QR code, it goes to a website, it just goes, yes, 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 run, turn your computer off, stop watching the TV, whatever it is. Well, that's where I went off the deep end, was with all the lockdowns and all this, the fart in the wind that was going to kill us all. We're all going to die, It's like, that's why I started watching INSP all the time. And I watched Turner Classic Movies. I watched the old black and whites with none of that propaganda in it. Now, there's a lot of gay guys in there, and there's a lot of men cross-dressing and women cross-dressing. Now that I've really paid, they brought that out to our limelight, right? That we all see that.
Yeah.
Now in the old movies, I'm catching it, and the Adam's apple on the, yeah, I'm like, that's a dude. Like, that's a dude. That's not a chick. Like, anyway. So I started watching the old stuff to get away from this programming. Like, you started out talking about the programming and the institutional, the slave system of education, which is the Phoenician style of slave training. And then we want to do it till we're what, 26 now? Because how many college degrees you got? You stay on your mom and dad's health insurance. They can claim you till the 20. We just raising a bunch of babies. But anyway, the wussification of America. I had a website or a page for a long time on Facebook. It was called the Anti-Wussification of America. And I would just put out rude man stuff. Like, it's like, well, I'm going shopping for a new dishwasher. This one broke. And it's like a lady in a golf car or in a push cart, And, it's so it was always very kind of rude in a way. But the problem is we can't laugh at that and we can't see the levity that if some, I always said, if a woman wanted me to stay home and, vacuum every day and do the dishes and cook dinner and go whatever and make myself look beautiful, and then someone else slayed dragons for me all day and they just paid all the bills, I'm like, why are women so afraid of that? Why are they running from the idea that they could just have their own, they could make their own stuff. They could do they could do all kinds of stuff. Learn animal husbandry through chickens and things. It's like, but we've lost that touch. But I think that's where your trial really kind of is a bigger exacerbation of it all, really, is that we really no longer we're not dealing in facts. We're not dealing in things that are logical. And if you're saying a lot of those people are vaxxed up, the cognitive dissonance is one of the side effects. Rejecting reality. That is a side effect of the COVID vaccine. That is a true side effect. Rejecting reality.
That's absolutely right on. You said a mouthful there, and
sorry, I got on a run there.
Well, it's interesting because I look at things. I own a business yet, and I'm not actively involved because I've been able to turn the business over to my men to run so that I can do this full time. But when I used to interview young people for our business, I would ask them, have you ever started a push mower? And 99 times out of 100 they would say no. I said, well, what's the reason? Well, my dad won't let me mow the lawn.
Right.
So I mean, I can hire somebody like that.
Yeah.
Because what they've been on the nipple so long.
Oh.
how do you put, and then they're expecting to get paid. If they want to pay me $30,000 a year as an apprentice to train them, okay, I would consider it. But I mean, they want to get paid to boot. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they're technically worthless.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. We grew up, I don't know how old you are. I'll be 63 in April. And
54.
uh,
I'm about
I
yeah.
grew, when I graduated from high school, every single man in our class could have run a family. They could,
Yeah.
they could have survived a power
They could
outage. I
do
mean,
pull-ups.
yeah, pull-ups. I mean,
They
we
could
could
climb a
skin it.
rope. Remember the rope and gym class and all that? Yeah, I'm
Right. I mean,
54. I'm only about 9 years behind you, but well, that's a sad part of it. We don't have men. We don't. I had a firing range on Tolleson Union High School. We had a firing range where we fired our M1 Garands in the Marine ROTC there on the campus. We had M1 Garands, World War II military, full metal jacket, the whole thing, right? And that's where you learned the
wow.
word clip from. Why everybody uses the word magazine, the word clip came from the M1 Garand. So anyway,
Wow.
yeah,
That's so I'm gonna just take you back to when I was in school. This will shock you. I'm even at your age,
right.
but you're on the tail end of the men who, the next generation down, the 45-year-olds, they do not get this. So you're on the tail end,
Oh
praise
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah.
But back when I was in school, when deer hunting season came, and we brought our rifles to school so that we could get our dad would pick us up at the end of the day, so we get out in the woods. But we brought our deer rifles to school. I mean, what a
Yeah.
strange time.
Oh, I had a 22 with scope because that way if because if you're shooting at squirrels or coyotes, whatever. But then I had my fishing poles right below that, and then I had that was in the gun rack in the back window. I mean, I went to I was able to I lived in town, but I went to school out in Rose Hill, and we still had that stuff. That was still, and you left the windows rolled down.
Right.
The slide window was open in the back. You had you had the slide window open, and then you had the 260 air conditioner with the two windows down at 60 mile an hour. That was that was that's then you know about 260 air conditioner.
I have never heard that. I love it.
Two windows down and 60 mile an hour. So, but that was, hey, what a greater time. But we can get back to those things. But I tell you, the sad part of it is that the more we really lost it with feminists and the femininity of women. When more feminine women are, the more protectant and the more stand-in a man will be, no matter how effeminate he is. The feminine, when she rolls into that feminine and she stops the hair pulling and the name calling and all that, that's where this whole dynamic of the earth will flip back around to a better balance of order, because men will step back in charge. Men will actually start doing what men should do, which creates a balance. Because men, we always live, okay, it's me and you, Scott, we're not the kind of guys we're like sizing each other, like, oh, I bet I could take Scott. But I beat that guy. No, but there's a little bit of that in everything, right? In every exchange with men, we're always in that, where women don't understand what that means. So we understand that we got to be careful about our words, about our tone, about things that we've done or things that we're going to do. So we have discernment, right? We create that hesitation, that slight moment to make better decisions, because when they're in their feminine, I get to be my masculine. But then that's where people start understanding the value of life and the value of family and the value of the truth and the authenticity. And that's one thing I've always gotten out of you, Scott. Like I said that in the beginning, is you're very authentic. You're very much right there. So as you're going through all these things, is there any other trials or any other things going on with this, or are you shutting the whole operation down?
We're shutting down the legal piece of it. I've decided to not appeal any further, unless something comes up where that door opens. But I know what this system is. This is not a system that's designed to win in.
Right.
I knew that going into it. So what was the reason you'd go into it? It was, like I said, it's because we're called to it. And so what happened with that trial, Jim? Was it worth $1.1 million? Yeah, that was a screaming deal. And the reason it was a screaming deal is because Grace's death, she has saved thousands of people already. It's truly a miracle. At the beginning, I just simply didn't want my daughter's death to be in vain.
Right.
And it hasn't been. She was a martyr. The first thing is she woke me up. I would still be asleep in that slave system if it wasn't for her death. And so consequently, I have a responsibility and an obligation to share what I've learned. And, this will be until I take my last breath. I'm going to keep going and keep saving lives.
Yeah.
That's what our family's been called to do. This book is just the next puzzle piece. I already started the next book. Which, I never thought I'd ever write a book. So this book is about the physical agenda. Is the government legally killing us? And I'm emphasizing legally in this book because it's not lawful. Only God is lawful. And the next book is this one will silence a few people, but the next one will cause a stir because the next one is titled "Is quote the church end quote spiritually killing us?"
Oh
And
my God.
so
What are you just picking a fight with? They picked a fight with you now. You're just picking a fight with everybody. All right. So we're going after the medical institution. We're going after churches. Hey, you sound like you're doing a Jim Price thing here, but I bet you're a little nicer than I am. And I do. And here's the thing, Scott, you're resonating with me so much about the very topics I refer to in the daily news of things is religion. It's not the steeple in the building. That's not what my relationship with my creator is.
that's right.
And it said, and what COVID, right, the lockdowns taught us is that we do have that 3-foot sphere of energy that comes out each side of our heart, forward and backwards. And they told us to stay 6 feet away from each other. But psychological studies have proven that if you're more than 6 feet away from somebody, as you talk to them, they don't trust you. And so we created that mistrust, and they knew these things. They knew all this stuff. Scott, this is the guy, I'm telling you, they knew this, but all we had to do was come together, right? And what did we do at those Reawaken tours? We hugged and we shook hands and we sat next to each other. We sweat in those buildings. We did the work. We took our time. But that's when things got better. We all felt good. I was so exhausted coming back. I'd be like, I'm driving back trying to I'm like, I'm so tired. And I would just get home. I'd sleep. But I was so fired up. I was like, yeah. We're doing this. We're moving the needle on things. And, but golly, if we could just learn one thing is where they were able to divide us is when they separated the home. They took the fathers out of the home. When they could get the fathers out of the home, it's over. They know that. They know they can use the emotion of the woman and the chemicals that they put in makeup, the hair coloring, the nail stuff, all those things. All those chemicals are the worst for women. They are so delicate in their chemical makeup. And they knew that they put that Mary Kay on there, which we're now finding out was a dude. Anyway, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't, Scott, I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Spoiler alert. Anyway, it may or may not be. I have no I did not see a hang down, so I don't know if I didn't inspect. I'm sorry. But the chemicals that women were doing that, and not only that, but then their sanitary solutions for their monthly stuff. The different things with the birth control. These are all things that affect the women the most, and these are the ones that are targeted the heaviest. Not only through the medical, but not through the beauty, but then through all the clothing that dysregulates their estrogen with all the spandex on their bodies. These are all things. And when they were off kilter, when they were taken off edge, they were easier to manipulate. And that's where we find ourselves now, right? We find ourselves in a world full of manipulated people, and I love the fact that you broke out of it. I do appreciate that about you, man. It's great.
Well, it's a miracle, and I'm going to give you another tentacle of what you just got done speaking, and I share this in the book. One of the goals of World War II. So remember, all these wars; these are by design too.
Yeah.
So one of the goals of World War II was to get women in the workplace. This is all part of the feminist movement. So, so why did they want women in the workplace? Well, just process it. If you look at the history of nursing homes started after World War II because now women are in the workplace. And so the parents can't be taken care of at home anymore. So now we have to have nursing homes, which, those are just another one of the death camps. Okay, so now we have women in the workforce, and we have two-earner couples chasing the American dream. And what's the reason they want them both chasing the American dream? Goes back to what I said earlier. We have the public school system to indoctrinate the kids. And wow, it's free? You got to be kidding me. This is free. The only requirement to entry is my child has to have 80 shots. Yeah, that's it. They just have to have 80 jabs and they get free indoctrination service. Yeah, this is a long-term scheme. It's all been by design.
Hey, real
Uh,
quick, Scott, I just had a real big epiphany on what you were saying there. When you were talking about the women going into the workplace, I've always thought about this, that they doubled their tax base, but what they really did was the Federal Reserve was able to reset the currency by washing it out, by nobody noticing, by bringing women into the workplace, right? People didn't realize that a janitor could no longer take care of a family of
yeah,
5.
bingo.
And so that's
Right on.
so the Federal Reserve, I get, so it's probably all by the bankers. God dang the damn bankers. So the bankers got involved in there and they said, oh yeah, we'll get the women to go in. That brings in more tax base for you, Mr. Governor. But then we're going to be able to devalue the currency to the point we're always in that slave system where you can't just catch a damn breath. You're always just under the waves. You're always getting splashed, right? So
That's right.
the Federal Reserve was able to reset the currency by devaluing it, by keeping that's why they couldn't do it in this. They were supposed to, according to the currency manipulation, it was supposed to have failed in the 60s. And so what they do? They held on to this to get this to wash out with women going into the workplace. So they, instead of going bankrupt like they should have, because these fiat currency systems only last for about 100 years or so. Have you heard about this?
I have not. No.
Yeah. There's a whole thing behind how long a fiat currency will actually last, and it's actually very little. It's actually like very little cycles, almost like the 30-year cycle and generational. But I'm going to look into this. This is just a little thing for me
Wow.
because they would be able to then, because then everybody seems to be struggling, right? Well, I got divorced, that's why I'm struggling. It's all these excuses. Oh, it's the oil embargo, it's these things. But in reality, they were revaluating the currency, devaluing it so that they can continue on. So they devalued it, right? And we all accepted it as this the new normal. But in reality, what they did was just elongated their plan just about another 20 or 30 years.
That makes total sense.
And
Yeah.
and they did that with the women going into the, so everybody's too busy chasing kids and latchkeying and all this other stuff, right? And we're getting divorces and we're dealing with all that. And then we got Vietnam and Korea, and that's kind of keeping us a little busy in our minds. And oh, wow. They just put women into the workplace to abuse them and then wash away their sins of fiat currency.
The fiat currency sins. Yeah, the fiat currency is a big piece of this puzzle. Um, because with that currency, they can make it look like it's about money. That's just a disguise. The money is, of course, the grease to make it happen, but they give an illusion that this is about money when it's about depopulating the world. I mean, they have sold this idea, the limited resources on the planet nonsense, and the people at the top, this satanic minion chart. The people at the top. They actually believe this foolishness. And they're the ones who are in charge of the money supply, and they can implement this with a vengeance. Of course, COVID exposed it for those people who are awake. But I mean, this has been going on, and that's what I tie back in the book. And in modern times, this started with the virology vaccine agenda in the 1850s, but then it got formal legs in 1905 with Jacobson versus Massachusetts. That set the culture of death in motion with the collectivism doctrine. And of course, I drill that down in the book, because what I did with the book, Jim, is I brought the receipts and I made a chronology so people can see, okay, this was by design, step by step, over time. So then, why did they do it over time? So for example, with the COVID shot, let's say that 75% of the people dropped dead within 2 minutes after the shot. Well, that doesn't work, because people would catch on, right? The next people in line would catch on as, oh, I'm not doing that, right? They have to do this slowly over time so that we don't catch on and we become the boiling frog.
Yeah, absolutely. I am really amazed by how this all works. But see, remember, by them in capturing us, by them putting us in our we put these little bars around ourselves, little jail cells. But by them getting us to do that for them, that's the energy that they live off of. That's the lifeblood of these guys. And
That's right.
at the end of it, just don't live in fear, right? Don't live in this. And I will tell you, Scott, the reason you see the world differently is because of how genuine you are in so many ways. And when you are authentic, you kind of pull yourself out of the rest of all that and you go, what are you people doing? Like, this is stupid. Like, this is the dumbest. Like, what are you doing? No, don't do. And so, like, for me, when I look at politics and I read these articles and I hear these stories, I mean, I'm like, why? What are you doing it for? Like, what are we doing it for? What do you got? What do you get? $5 out of the deal? This is not generational wealth. Nobody set you up in a castle. I mean, these people are. I mean, you think about how many people in the 2020 and 2024 election who are going into trials and going to jail for stuffing ballots for nothing. They never got paid $1. I mean, there was people that have done these things, and this is that 30 pieces of silver part of the story, right? So, Mr. CEO of such and such corporate, entity, this and that. Oh, well, I only do what the stockholders want, and I'm doing my best for them. But you're killing people.
Yeah,
you're
right
killing
on.
people. And that right there, I don't give a crap. Somewhere in your little heart right there's a part of you that knows what we're saying in opposition to you is real, no matter how cold and dead you are. And when you sell that, I think your heart or your soul has a lot of pieces. And I think depending on in life, you can sell off little parts of that or big parts of it or the whole dang thing, right? But the sad part of it is there's a lot of people out there selling off their soul and selling off their existence for what? And that's where we've got to get better with this. The humanity. I spent 6 days in the ICU at the beginning of the year, and I will tell you the humanity that was lost in an ICU was I was literally at the point where I got to get out of here. Like, get me out of this room. I don't want to be here any longer. And that's the humanity. They don't. No one came in there really to give a shit.
Yep.
As long as my little thing was doing what it was supposed to, when I was saying my pain levels, and they were ignoring everything else, as long as we were checking the boxes, but there was no humanity in that.
The protocols have become the patient. And, that is clearly what COVID exposed. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, it's been systemic. The patient is not important. If they can check the box with the protocols, they have immunity from liability. And that is way outside of COVID. That's just the reality of the healthcare system.
I got something worse. The doctors in the trauma unit when I went in said that I had an irregular EKG. They were worried about my heart and that they needed to have a heart specialist come in and see me right away. As soon as I was seeing the heart specialist, he goes, "Your heart's great, man. What are they talking about?" Oh, they used AI. AI doesn't know how to read a damn chart. They used AI to read my chart, and they were going to have somebody come into a heart cath and looking at my irregular heart rate and why I was having they're going to have to do a blade. I mean, they're already thinking of protocols here, right? And I haven't even been seen. And this white-haired doctor comes in and goes, "You got a great heart, man. How old are you? 54? Shit, you're doing great." Like, wow. I mean, he was all doing the paper thing. Like, it was I don't know why they sent me in here for this. If they just learned how to read these, they wouldn't have to worry about it. I'm like, holy shit. I mean, AI.
That's
AI,
real stuff. Right. What you just explained is real stuff. I mean, you and I are laughing about it, but it is not a joke. I mean, you cannot go in to a setting like that unprepared.
Oh, yeah. That's terrifying at best. Well, we are running out a little bit of time here. Not really. I'm getting ready to go. My stuff was on radio, and then I'm going to go on an FCC radio. There's different radio broadcasters out there that do, but I'm getting ready to go on FCC, so I'm going to be here on the 1st. I'm going to have to make sure I got my times right down. I haven't been good with it. It seems like now that I've had to pay attention more, it seems like I keep running over. I think it's like a stubbornness or something. I don't know what I'm doing to myself here. Well, Scott, where's the website for your book, buddy? Where you at?
If people go to the main website, which is ouramazinggrace.net, that has become a depository for everything that I've been doing, the research. Of course, there's lots of stories about grace on the website. But on the front page, you'll see a picture of the cover of the book. And if you just click on that picture, it'll give you 3 purchase options. One is on Amazon, then Barnes & Noble and Goodreads. And 100% of the proceeds are going to Grace's Foundation. I'd appreciate if people would buy it, read it, and pass it on. I think this book is written from the perspective, it's unique, Jim, because I've had several people already read it, and they've all said almost the same pattern. I laughed, I cried, and I got angry, but you have it all there.
Right.
So I think we can use it to pass on to a friend or relative who's not awake. And I think grace will soften their heart for them to listen to what is in this book and hopefully save their life.
Absolutely. And this is just a regular awareness of even what your doctor is going to do, your dentist is going to do. These are all decisions you get to make. You don't have to do what they say.
Correct.
You're the payee. You're the payer, right? You're the one that pays, right?
That's right on.
You get to make those decisions. But again, like I said, I got so frustrated. I had a heart rate. It was unbelievable. Anyway, we'll talk about it offline sometime. We'll talk soon. I do appreciate what you're doing. ouramazinggrace.com, right? Is that right?
Well, .com will get you there because we own that URL too, but it's officially set up at .net.
.net. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry. All right. So .net on that, guys. Get over there and take a look at what's going on. And Scott, you've been a very brave person. I know that the industrial complex that you went up against has a lot of zeros and a lot of things to protect in that little home range of theirs. So you're kind of, I don't know, I say lucky, but it's hard when you go in there. The mouth of the beast is sweaty and full of teeth. It's mad. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Jim, it's really been great to see you again.
Absolutely.
I mean, this was as good as it gets, this interaction. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon, and we'll see you later, buddy. All right?
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. There we go. And good to see Scott again. Guys, this is where I just see so many things that correlate into our daily life that we know that Scott went through, but we could see where, he had to go to a degree that I can't go to. I can't go chase down like he was able to chase down those people for that trial. That was brave of him to do that. I think he's horribly brave for that. It was unbelievable. He was willing to do those things. But anyway, that's brave on him. Go over to ouramazinggrace.net and get a look at the book. He is a really neat guy. I've appreciated him. I met him in such a neat way, very genuine, and then we exchanged cards or whatever. We followed up with each other. I got him on right away. It's been a long time. I didn't realize it's been a long time since we've met. He knew down to the month, like 4 years in a month. That's great on him. I need to start looking. I need to go back and fill all my stuff in on like a calendar so I can reference back and stuff like that. But maybe I'll figure out how to do the calendar thing on my phone. Yeah, right. Anyway, I know how to do it, but it's just programming. All right, guys, it's been good seeing everybody out there. Thank you so much for all you're doing and great comments as well. Remember to do the 10% we do for our neighbor, community, city, county, state, the federal government. The more you do for them, the less it to do for you. Learn how to be selfless and not so damn selfish. The world will be a far, far better place. Remember, hold the line, hold fast. Do not give up. Do not give in. We'll win. I promise to make promise I can't keep. Guys, you've always been the answer out there. Remember that Constitution that limits the government never limits you. Understand what your authority is. All right, guys, that's about it for me today. It was good stuff out there. Scott is such a great interview. I do enjoy him. And he's a heck of a guy, and he really put the work in. And I applaud him for what he was able to do. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm Jim Price, the Jim Price Show Daily Update. You guys will be good to each other out there, and I'll see you.